Okay, hello, good Woche, everyone. And so we have gone over from the entire 49 days of the Sphira are divided into two parts. It's 32 and 17. And the first 32 days of the Sefirah lead to, obviously, to Lag BaOmer, which is 33rd day. And from Lag BaOmer until the 49th day is 17 days. So the gematria of 32 is Lev, and the gematria of 17 is Tov. So it's Lev Tov. The main nakuda of getting into of acquiring, the main thing that we need to acquire on Sfira Saimer is this Chazal say in Pirkei Avos, they ask what is the Ben Zakkai, I think, is asking his Talmidim what is the best qualities that a person can have. So each one of his greatest Talmidim, they have. Just a second, just a quick look here. Like we showing. It says. What is the best midah that you can have? One says Ein Toivo, one says Shochan Tov, one says something, and Elazar ben Arach says that the most important midah is Lev Tov. He says, go ahead. Rabbi ben Zakkai had 5 Talmidim. Rabbi Elazar ben Horkanos, Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya, Rabbi Yosef Cohen, Rabbi Shimon ben San, and Rabbi Elazar ben Arach. He says, what is the best derech, the best way that a person should adhere to? Rabbi Elazar says, Ein Tov, Rabbi Yeshua says, Chavar Tov, Rabbi Yosef says, Shochan Tov, Rabbi Shimon says, Arayis Anoilad, somebody who foresees the consequences of his actions. Rabbi Elazar ben Arach says, Lev Tov. Omar lahem, Rabbi Zakkai says, Ro'eh ani es divrei Elazar ben Arach v'divreichem, shebichal dvarav divreichem. I see his Lev Tov is the highest of all those things that you said, because in what he says, which is a Lev Tov, includes already everything else that you say. Ein Tov, Achava Tov, Shochan Tov, Rois HaNoilad. The main problem of the first 33 days of Shas Omer, obviously, is the Talmidim of Rebbe Akiva, 24,000 Talmidim that passed away. You have to understand, you're talking about 900 funerals a day. Just to put it into perspective, what are we actually talking about? And all this is ending on Lag BaOmer, Shem Bar Yochai. Shem Bar Yochai is the tikkun of all these Talmidim. And we started in 32 days. This week's Parsha is actually extremely profound. The Inyanim basically says, you should do what Hashem says. If you go in my laws, then good stuff will happen. If you don't, then a whole slew of not so good stuff, chas v'chalila, will happen. And one says that he says that if you are, if you're going to do what it is that I want you to do, I shall walk amongst you. I will be, your Hashem, and you will be my nation. That I took you out of the land of Mitzrayim, from being slaves to them. And I will break, the sticks of your yokes. Asher says kormius means walking straight up. You have to understand, what is this? What we're talking about, it says, I should walk amongst you. And Rashi says that I will stroll with you in Gan Eden like one of you. And you won't be shaking, you won't be tremoring from me. He says, is it possible you won't fear me? No, it says, I should still be to you, to Elokim. The secrets that are embedded in this single pasuk is impossible to, when you've been studying in the rest of the shul, we're learning Torah Memtes on Thursday. It is available in a funny kind of quality videos on YouTube, or you can hear it on Telegram. Hear it, or you can listen to it on Telegram, watch it on YouTube. Anyhow, we're actually preparing ourselves that, I will be, I should stroll amongst you, that we will be exposed, as it were, to Kadosh Baruch Hu, without disappearing, without stopping to exist, and becoming bottled, nulled. This is the union of Sphere Sabino, Bino Yilo. That's the 50th gate that we are stepping to. Spheres, in Sphere Sa'imer, 50th gate is Shar Chamishim, that's Shavuos. So we have already learned that it's a process that keeps on growing, keeps on going. There is every cycle of 50th gate, gets you to a certain madrega, which is the beginning of the next 50, the next 50, and the next 50. You keep on growing, keep on getting you acquire one level, and then from that level you get to the next one. And Rabbeinu says in Torah Chafei, which happens to be, the timely Torah that in rest of the learn today, Rabbeinu explains that whatever it is that you are holding in any specific madrega, what happens is that there's a certain level of sanctity that typifies your everyday deeds. In other words, your business, your eating, your sleeping. You would think, eating, sleeping, what do you want? I'm just eating and sleeping with everybody else. It's not true. When any person has a madrega, that there's a level of kedusha that for his Torah and for his mitzvahs, and there's a level of kedusha of his divrei chol, his eating, his sleeping, his business dealings. Now the thing is that these are called the inner kedusha. It's kedusha of your Torah, of your tefillah, and it's called the outside kedusha. That's the kedusha of your eating, your drinking, and your business dealings, and so forth and so on. Now, the thing is that a person keeps on going from one madriga to the next. So let's give and just a little addition. Every person is in a different level than his friend. There's never ever a case of two people who are holding exactly the same madriga. But everybody in Am Yisrael are like peels of onion. Each one is above the other, above the other, above the other. Now, the kedusha of the person who is holding on the higher madriga than me, it's not just that he is altogether higher than me. He is. But what it means is that his external kedusha, the level of kedusha of his business dealings, of his eating, of his drinking, is higher than the kedusha of my Torah and my mitzvahs. Now, this is an extreme concept, but this is what reality is. So, if we were to put this into, to make it more easily understandable, let's give it numbers, okay? So let's say that the kedusha of my eating and drinking and business dealings is a 5. And the kedusha of my learning and my davening is a 10. So the person is above me, the kedusha of his eating and drinking and business dealings would be 15. The kedusha of his learning and davening would be 20. Just a small shul. Now, when I finish my madrega, I finish everything that I need to do in my madrega. You can call it the 50 steps of Sfiras Eimer. One step at a time, getting into the 50th gate is Prinas Yovel, Prinas Shala Chamishin, Prinas Abina, before I'm holding. You can call it, being mistaken the 10 spheres. It does not matter. The main thing is that when I conclude finishing my level, it is time for me to move up. Now, when I move up, I push the person who's above me, I push him up also. I help him out. The very same way that I'm helped out by people who are below me. When they go up, they push me up. Gives you a little bit of an inkling of what's the pshat of Israel Arevim Zabazeh. They're mixed with one another. They're all responsible, all guarantee one another. They're all guarantors for one another. Everybody helps everybody. But the important thing here to understand the pasuk, and something that comes after is, I take it out of the land of Egypt, I break your yoke, and I will walk you standing upright. Standing upright is a strange kind of of the language. What's the difference between upright or we're traveling on a sleeper seat, in business class? What difference does it make? So the answer is the in between the madrigas. When I go from my level to the next level, where my level is 5 and 10, right? And I'm going up to the level of my friend who was 15 and 20, right? And the muscle that we gave. When I first finish my madriga, what happens is that I don't just pick up my dishes and move to the 15, 20. It doesn't happen that way. What happens is that only my inner kedusha, my 10, goes with me, goes up. And what happens is it becomes the level of kedusha of my eating and drinking. And before, it was the level of my davening and my learning. It was a 10. Now, when I've gone to the next madrega, my inner level, my 10, that thing, the level of my Torah and Tefillah, now becomes my external kedusha. That's the kedusha of my eating, drinking, and business becomes a 10. The person above me, same thing happened to him. His inner kedusha of 20 went up, and now it became his eating, drinking, so forth and so on. What he left behind is the 15. That used to be the kedusha of his eating and drinking. So now I'm basically in a hybrid madrega. It's not 5 and 10, and it's not 15 and 20. But what it is, it's a 10 and 15. The upper madrega of what I used to be, and the lower madrega of what my friend used to be. Which means I come to this new place, which, the shleimus of this, the perfection of this new place is 15, 20, but all I have is just 10, 15. And achinami, I made a step up. Now my learning and my davening is already a 10. My learning and davening is 15, which I never had before. What I had before was 10. Now it's the level of my eating and drinking divrei chol, which is wow, it's gewaldic. But nevertheless, it's not enough for this new level. What happens is that every single new level that you go has around it the sentinels of the kilipot, of the tum'ah, of the dimyonot, of the fantasies, of what we call chamadama, the force of imagination. When I was in my level, 5 and 10, okay, I knew exactly what was going on. I realized what was right, I realized what was wrong. Everything was fine. Now I'm coming to a level that demands 15, 20. But all I have to offer is a 10, 15. I brought the 10 with me, and I'm with the 15 that remain in that madrega. When that happens, all the demons come straight out of hell. All the kilipot come up. All the dimyonot come up. Suddenly I find myself shaken to the core with an onslaught of thoughts, of fantasies, of urges, of cravings that I said, where did that come from? I thought I left it way long ago. 11 will suddenly, boom, what happened to me? It's a very common mistake, Rabbeinu says, that people who are working on themselves tend to think that I can't believe this. I just like everything was going okay, and suddenly I was shattered, totally shattered. I was smashed to smithereens. To use a fancy language of Abba Iban. Anybody remember him? And I said, I can't believe this. But the answer is only good stuff happened to you. You have gone up. You have gone up in a level. And what you're seeing now is how unprepared you are for the next level. What you need to do is you need to go through that smokescreen of dimyonot, of fantasies, of cravings, of urges, of confusions, until you acquire the level, you elevate from 10-15, you elevate it to 15-20, the way that it actually should be in this new residence of yours. So this is what it says here. I am Hashem Elokechem, that I took you out of land of Egypt, for being slaves to them. This is the immunity of the lower Madrega. Veshbo moites ulchem, and I'll break the yoke that is holding you back. Eschem confused, that I will walk you straight up. It says that Rashi says, skufa, straight, standing straight up. This pasuk talks about Eretz Yisrael. Am Yisrael was going to Eretz Yisrael at that time, because all our journeys are always off Am Yisrael, and all the wars, and all the conquests. Everything is only for the purpose of going to Eretz Yisrael. As we learned, that going to Eretz Yisrael means that you become a Jew who goes from one madrega to the next. And I will walk you straight up. In other words, with strength and resoluteness, that you're holding straight and you're being in action, and a tremendous stubbornness to win the war. Because you're going to go through these bilbulim. In fact, I'll take it one step further. If you're not going through these confusions, means you have not advanced at all. If everything is peachy, that means you're just sitting back, with a daiquiri or a little, some kind of cocktail, where they have with this little paper umbrella, under the parasol by the beach. You're not doing anything. If you find yourself suddenly being bombarded and snowed under of thoughts that you thought that you have finished with them eons ago, that is your simmer that you are actually advancing. Don't be afraid. Don't back down. This is you going to Eretz Yisrael. Okay. And with this, without further ado, let's get to the Maisa of the Baal Shem Tov for this week. This is a very, very famous Maisa. Everybody's on this Dosn's Maisa without Hashem. We had koyach with this Maisa to get to where we need to get. There was one Maisa with a yid, a farm, from one of the villages, that always in Yom Naraim used to come to the Besmeder of the Baal Shem Tov. Now this person had a kid, which is not that such a rarity in those days, that did not how to read. In fact, he was rather unsophisticated, let's put it this way. I mean, none of that. He didn't even know how to say anything with Kedusha. So the Meir Noraim came, his father takes him to the best man of the Baal Shem Tov. Now the kid had a flute that he used to play whenever he's sitting in the field, shepherding the flock. So when his father took him in Yom Kippur, the kid took the flute with him in his pocket. His father didn't know. And the kid was just sitting there. Had absolutely no idea what to say. So didn't say anything. So suddenly, in the middle of Musaf, he tells his father, "Daddy, I have my flute with me. I really would like to blow it. I'd like to play it." So his father got very scared. That's what you're talking about. Don't do it. Don't do it. Whatever, just don't do it, man. No. So he couldn't do it. After Mincha, he says to his father, "Please allow me to play my flute. I want to." So his father really warned him. He says, like, "Don't you dare. Don't you dare." Well, he couldn't take the flute from his son because it's muktzah. Flute, Yom Kippur, it's muktzah. So he couldn't take it away. After Mincha, he says, "Please, let me just, play something." So his father asked him, said, where do you have the flute? So he showed him. So his father held his pocket with the flute to make sure that the kid doesn't take out the flute and start playing it. So the father davened the entire Ne'ilah with his hand holding his son's pocket with the flute in it. In the middle of the Ne'ilah, the kid just pulled the flute with the pocket, out of the pocket from his father's hands, and gave a blues, like boop, with all his force. When the Baal Shem Tov heard that blowing, immediately he finished Ne'ilah, and he made it short, and he finished. After the tefillah, Baal Shem Tov said, "This kid with the flute has elevated all the tefillahs, and he made it so much easier for me." He says, the reason is because that kid doesn't know how to say anything. And the entire day he just heard, Am Yisrael davening. And the holy spark in him was burnt him like a fire. And the Kodesh Baruch Hu that knows everything, can and anybody who knows anything can push the burning of the Kedusha and the yearning in the tefillah before Hashem Baruch Hu, but he doesn't know. He doesn't know how to daven. He doesn't know how to say anything. He doesn't find anything, to quench his thirst, except to play his flute before Hashem's mouth. But his father prevented him from playing. The only thing it did is just stoked up, his yearning more and more. And when it became too much for him to hold back, he actually called out the point of the truest point of his heart from the flute without any pniya, completely clean for Kodesh Baruch Hu. And that's what Kodesh Baruch Hu wants, the heart. And his clean, the breath of his mouth is clean because he's never said anything, was accepted before Kodesh Baruch Hu. And this elevated all the tefillas. The same story is told sometimes by the Baditchev. We're not sure, but one thing is for sure that Maisa is told, and it's one of the classic Maisas of the Baal Shem Tov, or Maisas of Tzaddikim, that tell us that until that time, people were so zoomed in, oh, how much do you know? How sophisticated you are. But the Baal Shem Tov introduced that, amongst other things, he introduced that nekuda, that how clean you are. So now, B'ezrat Hashem, without further ado, we will get into the Sichos Haran of tonight. And here we go. The Sichos 125, Kuf Chaf Hey. And Chag HaSukkos Taf Kuf Ein, that was 1 year before Rabbeinu was Mustalik. Rabbeinu said about this eating of the Esrog that according to the extreme value of the Yom Neiroim, it is really befitting we should have a beautiful Esrog. Now, and this year there were no Esrogim at all. They couldn't get any. You're talking about Ukraine, Esrog is not, indigenous to any of the surrounding countries. So people thought they won't have any Esrogim at all. There was no Esrogim in the land until Erev Sukkos. Erev Sukkos, Hashem Yisbarach made amazing miracles, and he made it so that Esrogim came to a few towns, and the people they'll pay a huge amount of money from Esrog. You understand that in those towns they would buy one Esrog, and everybody would be yotze with it because there was no other way to do it. So Kodesh Baruch Hu b'derech nes, Esrogim came to a few towns. They gave a lot of money. In certain kilos, they gave 50, gold coins for them. It was a lot of money for one Esrog. And also the Kilas Breslev, one beautiful, very, very special Esrog Kid Rabbeinu. That's how the Gvacha, and Rabbeinu was in tremendous simcha. Rabbeinu was in such simcha that he said should bring in people with an orchestra and to play music. It says for 3 days, he had such chiyas from the Esrog. He was much healthy all these 3 years. He's talking about a year before Rabbeinu passed away. The last 3 years that before Rabbeinu passed away, Rabbeinu basically existed, miraculously. It was tuberculosis, and it was, an illness. It's an incurable illness at that time. And Rabbeinu was, at that time, he was very ill. But he was so happy that the Esrog came that for 3 days he had tremendous chas from the Esrog. He was healthy all these 3 days. Bichlal did not feel his hard illness that he had from the greatness of the simcha that he had from the Esrog. And also after Sukkot, Rabbeinu spoke a lot about the Esrog. And he said, we absolutely have no idea at all of how precious this mitzvah of the Esrog is. Rabbeinu says, we see that Am Yisrael are spending a lot of money for this mitzvah, much more than all the other mitzvahs. People pay, for Mehudadik Esrogim, some special, tremendous amount of money. He says, Bevad, it is not for nothing. He says, it comes to tell you that this is an extremely, extremely precious mitzvah. There is absolutely no way for us to comprehend how great it is. He says, and if people would have known how great this mitzvah is, they would do whatever it is they would do for this mitzvah. In other words, they would absolutely go nuts. He says, Am Yisrael, this is one of the important things to understand. Am Yisrael, Am Kodesh. Israel is a holy nation. Em Chachomim. They are smart. V'kosher las oisom. It is very difficult to cheat them. Bevadai. Shemefazerim momon harbem shel mitzvah zu. If they spend so much money for this mitzvah, lo lechinam, it's not for nothing. V'oderich b'sipur zeh, Rabbeinu lengthened, spoke at great length about this, and spent a lot of time talking about the milah of the mitzvah of esrog. So obviously, we're talking about mitzvah of esrog. It is something with shayach when we're talking about esrog. But there's something else which is negea just to our time. And that was the inyan of going to Miron. People tried to sort of like be masader this going to Miron in such a way that will be safe for people, which is understandable. Obviously, it should be safe. And it stands to reason that if people would have been smarter, they would comply at least, the 1 year. You understand, everybody's in shock, especially the people that don't understand, the fry people that are in charge of things. They don't understand what's involved in that. They wanted to make sure that things are safe and orderly, the way that if people go to a soccer game or something, it's like was to go in, was to go out, whatever it is, they don't have an understanding of what it is. And this is probably the reason why things went overboard. But the thing that needs to be understood is this whole inyan, Am Yisrael going to Reb Shimon Bar Yochai for Lag BaOmer. People are coming from all over the world for Lag BaOmer. As we spoke about it before, people have no idea why they come to Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. Most of the people have no idea. They don't know. They know about the Zohar, they know about Kabbalah. In other words, they know that these things exist, but they have no idea of what it is. How much more so even people that are learning the Zohar and learning Kabbalah still don't know what it is. How much more so people don't even learn it, but it doesn't matter. The simple people, sophisticated people, poor people, rich people, they all come to Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. The reason for it is exactly the same reason as we said in Sichos Haran about the Esrog. Am Yisrael is a smart nation. You can deceive them. You can deceive them for a while. You can deceive some of them for all time. As they say, you can deceive part of the people all the time, and all the people part of the time, but you cannot deceive all the people all the time. Am Yisrael is a nation that basically cannot be deceived. So you see that there's hounds, there's animals, they take a bite out of Am Yisrael throughout the ages. Here they take a bite, here they take a bite. And usually it's the people from within Am Yisrael that come up and go out and take the bite. But they can't stop the train. And the train is leading to the Geula. I spoke to somebody who's not from, speaking about Olam Haba. So as far as he's concerned, Olam Haba, I don't know what Olam Haba was. Olam Haba. How do you know that there's Olam Haba? What kind of proof do you have of Olam Haba? I said, take a look. What kind of sense does it make that there will be such a thing as called the State of Israel? Where have you ever seen a nation that's been driven away from its land, kept itself, hated, persecuted, murdered, whatever it is throughout the ages? In other words, there was no single age where they were popular. At the best, they were tolerated. At best. 2,000 years, and they come back and they have their own land. They have their own country. So he goes, it's very impressive. So what the heck are you talking about? Impressive. That's Olam Haba. That is your proof of Olam Haba. If this world would have been only, nature driven, such a thing would have never ever happened. Until you decry people sitting in yeshivas not going to the army, you're dummkopf. What do you think you think you have a state of Israel if 2,000 years ago Rabbi Akiva and his friends would have listened to what the Roman says and not have any yeshivas? There would be no yeshivas over there, there would be no state of Israel today. Does it make any sense to you? There are like 16, 20,000 Bochum sitting learning Torah for the future from Israel. Doesn't make any sense to you? Duh. Am Yisrael is Am HaNetzach. Am Yisrael is the people of destiny. You can't cheat them. That's why they go to Miram. That's why they spend so much money for Nesrin. That's what it says, I shall walk you, upright, standing against all the stumbles that will be in front of you on your way to get to where you need to get. Because Baruch Hashem, we're the people of destiny. Baruch should help us all. We should have Kol Tov. Baruch Hashem, the only thing we need to do, Rabbeinu says, all you need to do is just bring bricks and mortar. And I build buildings from that. That's what the tzaddik does. We don't have to worry about making buildings. We're taking a look at who we are, what we have achieved, what we haven't achieved. Don't worry about it. The only thing I need to do is just another blood Gemara, another pasuk of Chumash, another Mishnah, another this, another davening, another this. It's brick and mortar. Be connected to the tzaddik. Tzaddik build the buildings on it. You have absolutely no idea what is being done with your particular brick and the mortar that you bring. You have to worry about it. Because, we tend to sort of reflect, what have I achieved in my life? I mean, take a look. All these people are sitting and there's such a, and it's such a, what am I bringing to the table? I can hardly read, I can hardly daven, I can hardly this, I can do that. Even when I know I should, I can't. Whatever it is, that it doesn't matter. All you need to do is bring the bricks and the mortar. And the tzaddik already built the buildings. That's Reb Shiva Yochai with Lag Baimer. That's the Esher, that's his Malchus. There's a whole Sicha can be developed from that as well. But Bezat Hashem will stop here. Now, Bezat Hashem, Monday, we're starting a new story. I haven't decided yet which story it's going to be. We'll see Sipurey. So I hope that the tension the fear of losing out, whatever it is. We'll bring you guys on Monday to learn Sipurey Masters to see which Master we're going to learn. Have a good Vach, everyone, and good life.